Black just played. On a4, pause the video to find out White's response. On h3, king c4. On g3, king d3. On g4, king e4. On b3, White intends to play. On takes a4, king d5. On a5, and take decisive advantage. On takes b3, move preferred by black. King b2, king f3. On a4, White is preparing to play. On takes h5. On takes h5. On a5, king g3. On a6, king takes h3. On a7, on g4. On promotes to queen at a8 and increase their advantage significantly. On takes g4 played by black. On takes g4, king e4. On a5, king f4. On a6, king takes g4. On a7, king g3. On promotes to queen at a8. White considers playing. Queen b8 check. King f3. Queen b7 check. King g3. Queen c7 check. King g2. Queen c8 and dominate the board. On g4, black is on the verge of defeat. Let's go to the next game. Black just played. On c4 check, pause the video to find out White's response. On takes c4 check. On takes c4 check. King e3. On c3. On h4. White is looking to play. King d3. King c6. King takes c3 and establish a winning position. King c4, move preferred by black. King e4. White is aiming to play. King e3. King c5. King d3. King d5. King takes c3 and seize the initiative. King c5 played by black. King d3. King d5. King takes c3. King e4. King b3. King f3. On c4. King takes g3. On c5. King takes h4. On c6. King g3. On c7. King takes f4. On promotes to queen at c8. King takes e5. Black is struggling to keep up. Let's go to the next game. Black made a move. On g6, pause the video to find out White's response. On h3, king c6. King e5. White is planning to play. King takes e6 and dominate the board. King d7, move preferred by black. On g4, king e7. On g5, White's idea is to play. On h4, king f7. King d6. King g7. King takes e6 and gain a significant edge. King d7 played by black. King f6. White is planning to play. King g7. King c6. On h4 and establish a winning position. King c6, move preferred by black. King g7. King b5. King takes h7. King b4. On h4. King takes b3. King takes g6. On a4. On h5. On c4. On h6. White is preparing to play. On h7. King takes b2. King h5 and secure a stronghold in the game. On a3, move preferred by black. Black considers playing. Pawn takes b2 and dominate the board. On takes a3 was chosen by White. On c3, White has a decisive advantage. Let's go to the next game. Black made a move. On h5, pause the video to find out White's response. On h4, white is planning to play pawn takes g5 and dominate the board. On g4 was chosen by black. On a3, on b6, on a4, on a5. Black is aiming to play pawn takes b4 and put immense pressure on the opponent. On b5 move preferred by white. King d6. Black is setting up to play. King c5. King d3. King b4. King d4. King takes a4 and dominate the board. King f4 move preferred by white. White intends to play king takes f5 and establish a winning position. King e6 was chosen by black. King g5. White is setting up to play. King f4. King d6. King takes f5 and take decisive advantage. King e5 move preferred by black. Black is planning to play. On f4. On c5. On f3. On c6. King d6. King takes h5. On f2. King takes g4. On promotes to queen at f1 and increase their advantage significantly. King takes h5 played by white. King e4. On c5. White intends to play pawn takes b6 and dominate the board. On f4 played by black. On c6. On f3. On c7. On f2. On promotes to queen at c8. White is looking to play queen takes g4 check and put immense pressure on the opponent. On promotes to queen at f1 played by black. King g5. Queen g1. Queen takes g4 check. King d3. Black's loss is confirmed. Let's go to the next game. White played king f2. Pause the video to spot black's next move. On takes f4. King f3. White is setting up to play pawn takes f4 and increase their advantage significantly. On takes g3 was chosen by black. On takes g3. King takes e5. King e3. King f5. Black is preparing to play. King g4. King f2. On h6. King g2. On h5. King h2. On h4 and gain a significant edge. King f3 move preferred by white. King g5. Black considers playing. On h5. King f2. King g4. King g2. On f6. King h2. King f3 and put immense pressure on the opponent. King f2 was chosen by white. King g4. King g2. On h6. Black is looking to play. On h5. King h2. King f3. King h3. On f5 and put immense pressure on the opponent. King h2 played by white. King f3. King h3. On f5. King h2. King f2. King h3. King g1. Black considers playing. On h5. King h4. King h2. King g5. King takes g3 and increase their advantage significantly. King h4 played by white. King g2. Black wants to play. King h2. On g4. On f4. On g5. On takes g5 check and gain a significant edge. On g4 move preferred by white. White considers playing pawn takes f5 and establish a winning position. On f4 played by black. Black is setting up to play. On f3. On g5. Pawn takes g5 check and gain a significant edge. Pawn g5 played by white. Pawn takes g5 check. King takes g5. Black is clearly ahead. Let's go to the next game. Black just played. Pawn b6. Pause the video to figure out white's next move. Pawn takes a5. Pawn takes a5. Pawn h3. King c6. Pawn a4. Pawn h5. King e5. King c5. King takes f5. King b4. King g6. King takes a4. Pawn f5. King b3. King takes g7. Pawn a4. King g6. Pawn a3. Pawn f6. Pawn a2. Pawn f7. Pawn promotes to queen at a1. Pawn promotes to queen at f8. White might go for king takes h5 and dominate the board. Queen d4 was chosen by black. Queen g8 check. King c2. King takes h5. Queen e5 check. Black's loss is confirmed. Let's go to the next game. Black played. Rook takes d4 check. Pause the video and try to find white's next move. King takes d4. King d6. Pawn h3. Pawn h6. Pawn h4. Pawn a5. Pawn a3. Pawn h5. Pawn a4. White's idea is to play pawn takes b5 and gain a significant edge. Pawn b4 played by black. Black wants to play. Pawn takes c3. King takes c3. King c5. King c2. King b4. King b2. Pawn d4. King c2. King a3 and seize the initiative. Pawn takes b4 move preferred by white. Pawn takes b4. Pawn a5. King c6. Pawn a6. White is planning to play. Pawn a7. King b7. King takes d5. King takes a7. King c4. King a6. King takes b4. King b6. King c4 and increase their advantage significantly. King b6 move preferred by black. King takes d5. King takes a6. King c4. King b7. King takes b4. King b6. King c4. White considers playing. King d4. King c6. King e5. King c5. King f6. King d5. Pawn b4 and take decisive advantage. King c6 was chosen by black. Pawn b4. King b6. King d5. White intends to play. King e5. King b5. King f6 and increase their advantage significantly. Pawn g5 was chosen by black. Pawn takes g5. King b5. Black has no response. Let's go to the next game. Black made a move. King f7. Pause the video to figure out white's next move. Rook f6 check. Queen takes f6. Bishop takes f6. King takes f6. King f1. King f5. King f2. King g4. King e3. King f5. King d4. King e6. King e4. King f6. Pawn h4. King g6. Pawn g4. King f6. King d5. King e7. King e5. White might go for pawn h5. King f7. King f5. King g7. King e6. King g8. King f6 and take decisive advantage. King f7 played by black. King f5. King g7. King e6. White's idea is to play pawn h5. King g8. King f6. King h7. king f7, king h8, king g6, king g8. King takes h6 and put immense pressure on the opponent. King g6 played by black. On h5 check. King g5, king f7. White is aiming to play. King g7. King takes g4. King takes h6 and establish a winning position. King f4 played by black. King g6. King takes g4. King takes h6. King f5. White is dominating the board. Let's go to the next game. Black just played. Queen takes c5. Pause the video to figure out white's next move. Black's idea is to play queen takes b4 and establish a winning position. Pawn takes c5 move preferred by white. King f7. Black is aiming to play. King e6. King h3. King d5. King g4. King takes c5 and take decisive advantage. King f3 was chosen by white. On f5. King e3. King e7. King d4. White is aiming to play. King e5. On f4. Pawn takes f4. King d7. On f5. King e7. On f4. King d7. On f6 and seize the initiative. King e6 was chosen by black. On f3. King d7. King d5. King c7. On f4. On g6. King e6. White wants to play. King f7. King c6. King takes g6. King takes c5. King takes f5 and increase their advantage significantly. King c6 played by black. King f6. King d5. King takes g6. King takes a5. King takes f5. King d5. On g4. On a5. On g5. On a4. On g6. On a3. On g7. On a2. Pawn promotes to queen at g8. White considers playing queen takes a2 and seize the initiative. Pawn promotes to queen at a1 was chosen by black. Queen e8 check. King b4. Queen e4 check. King a3. Queen takes b7. Queen h8. White has a decisive advantage. Let's go to the next game. Black made a move. King d6. Pause the video and try to find white's next move. On h5. White intends to play pawn takes g6 and seize the initiative. Pawn takes h5 played by black. Pawn takes h5. King e6. King f3. White is aiming to play. King e4. King e7. King f5. King f7. Pawn d5. Pawn takes d5. Pawn takes d5 and dominate the board. King f5 played by black. King e3. King g5. On d5. White is looking to play pawn takes c6 and dominate the board. Pawn takes d5 move preferred by black. Pawn takes d5. On f5. King f3. On f4. On d6. White is looking to play. On d7. King h4. Pawn promotes to queen at d8 check and establish a winning position. King f6 was chosen by black. King takes f4. King e6. King e4. King takes d6. King d4. King e6. King c5. King f6. King d5. King g5. King takes a5. King takes h5. King d5. King g4. On the 5. King f3. King c4. King e4. On a6. King f4. King d3. On h5, king e2. White intends to play king f2. On h4. On a7. On h3. On promotes to queen at a8 and increase their advantage significantly. On h4 was chosen by black. On a7. White's idea is to play pawn promotes to queen at a8 and put immense pressure on the opponent. On h3 was chosen by black. Pawn promotes to queen at a8. King e5. White is dominating the board. Let's go to the next game.